Hey buddy, it's Carm here. I'm coming to you on a Sunday night. Not real late. I think maybe a little after 11 or so. Uh, Came home just a little while ago. Had a great day. I went with family and celebrated my grandpa's 92nd birthday. Incredible. Still doing really well and very grateful to have him. Had a really nice, relaxing time with family and some friends of his in the neighborhood. And say a quick hello to Uncle Nick, who I know watches. Yeah, and just got back maybe just a few hours ago, and want to come on and talk about a new album by an all-time favorite artist, which I've been meaning to come on and talk about for a while because I've had it for maybe a couple of months now since it's been released, but I just never got around to it. But also didn't want to wait too long until I'm sure other people, a lot of you watching, or if you're into the things that I'm into, are probably fans of this artist, and you may already know about this and have it, and have weighed in on it. And I have to thank Louie from Louie Plays Drums, who anytime anything comes out, Tangerine Dream or Klaus Schulze related, he's always seems to be abreast, keeps me abreast of those things. Give me links to the latest thing that's coming out, and well, here we have long-awaited first studio album in quite some years, 5 years I think at least. The great Klaus Schulze, Silhouettes. He's a great artist himself. He had been experiencing some health problems, I guess, over the last few years, and he even announced retiring from touring, public live performances. But was really happy to hear about this. It had come out. Yeah, first new music in a while. You can see 4 long pieces here. Yeah, released in this year. I think, yeah, either April or May it came out. Liner notes by the man himself. I don't know if he really does, a whole lot. Very often does liner notes. You can see very, very reflective and with great gratitude. Yeah, great pictures here. And it's a double album, of course. And as Louis was pointing out, I love that. Louis was pointing out, almost looks like it was chiseled from marble itself. And yeah, both discs are like this. But excellent album. It's I've been a fan of his since I heard Time Wind, which I'd bought pretty much. You could say kind of as a blind buy. Attracted by the cover and really had very little to go on at the time. Summer of 1992, and followed him as avidly as I could over the years since. And he's come out with so many different, so much music at various times over the years, and a lot of stuff that hard to keep track of. A little bit like Steve Roach, so prolific and released music in so many different forms, box sets, and things you don't find until years later sometimes. And this, I'd have to say, this is my favorite thing since Continuum, which he had done, I believe, in '07, and that was probably my favorite thing of his since the late '70s stuff, maybe X. There's a few things in the '80s and '90s that came close, but I rank this up pretty high up there with with all-time favorites. Not in the sense that I don't feel he's really breaking new ground necessarily, and I wouldn't even say this is really a summation of what he's done over the years. It's in some ways it's kind of like a brief glance, and with kind of a brief glance and a distillation of the music he's done all these years. in kind of a reductive way, which he actually mentions. That was part of a period. This has been a period of reduction, of reflection, and I think you could hear it in the music. I hear it, at least for myself, and feel it. All four pieces, it really sounds like one piece. Maybe not so much variations on a theme as it is maybe just different angles of the same thing. Just looking at it from almost like looking at a prism and just seeing how it refracts at different angles. Very stripped down. Again, it has a very melancholy, like a lot of his music does. Elegiac, or I can never pronounce that, or like an elegy, without being despondent or overly glum. There's a real hopeful quality in the music too, and a kind of searching for something better ahead. And as you pointed out, you've been experiencing health problems, which he's been recovering from and doing better, thankfully, and still creating music. The first piece, the title cut, as a lot of these pieces do, or most of them, starts off very slow and kind of slow, sustaining chords. Dark and moody, but also with a sense of apprehension and very beautiful, and still with some sense of hope there. Throughout the album, there's very light percussion, but not like some of the areas he'd gone into with this kind of almost techno at times. You really don't hear that on here. Towards the end of the first piece, you have almost kind of like a little rapid hi-hat thing coming in towards the end, but it's more of an accent than actually maybe keeping a rhythm. In the second piece, Der Lang Blick Zurück, to me almost, I don't know if he intended this or not, probably not, because he's always focused on where he's at the moment rather than being kind of revisionist, but it kind of reminds me of a piece from Picture Music, this album from the early 70s, Totem. It has a kind of a feel. The rhythm on there has this kind of very, very slow, gradually percolating, somewhere between a synthesizer and a drum machine, or a sequencer and a drum machine. I think actually that's what's playing now, early on in the second piece. But I just love it. And the third piece, Quai Simplex, probably the most percussive of the album, although again very subtle, and it almost sounds like a conventional drum kit being played, a very kind of standard beat, but again very kind of a little more just a little below the surface, not dominating too much. Sometimes the rhythm, I know Gary's pointed this out when we've talked about Klaus Schulze. Sometimes the rhythm, the drums on his albums, it kind of roots the music and keeps it from. His music is to me, it's very transcendent and it's always going up and outward somewhere. And sometimes the rhythm can keep it a little too grounded, and you lose a sense of that expansiveness at times, at least for some of us who hear it. But it didn't seem to do that on this album at all. For me. And the final piece, Chateau Fate Stevent. Probably not anywhere you're pronouncing that. Again, very slow, kind of undulating. The rhythm comes in more. Actually, with that one, I might have started off a little more rhythmically. But again, very, very subtle, and these things are hinted at more than overtly stated. And this is just I have this playing pretty low too. I don't know how well you could hear it. Just anytime it seems like I play his stuff in the background, it always gets blocked somewhere. But I think it's just a gorgeous album. Again, not necessarily groundbreaking or spectacular, but it's just it's a very welcome to see him back on, to hear him back on, and making new music, and still exploring in some way, which his music is. I've always heard that deep sense of exploration, even again, as melancholy as some of it may be, and maybe even bleak at times. You always hear a kind of sense of hope and a searching. However oblique it may be, it's still that's something I've always heard and felt, and yeah, still why he's one of my all-time favorites. Whether an electronic musician or not, he's still very high up there. And of course, I have the CD too. But yeah, highly recommend it if you're not aware of it. If you're into electronic music, whatever branch of it, there are so many branches, and you've heard of him and are not sure where to start. This would be a good album to start with, even if you're going to go back, in reverse chronology. This would be a pretty good one, because I still think it represents very well what he's I think always been about since the beginning. Just a restless explorer, and oftentimes alone. He's collaborated over the years, in many different contexts, but for the most part, he's kind of in the most positive sense, maybe the ultimate lone wolf. But still, to me, he still keeps it fresh, and highly recommend it. Klaus Schulze Silhouettes. Yep, still at 70. I think he's now 71 years old, or just about to turn 71. Still with us. So, yeah, just wanted to come on and share it. As I've been meaning to for a while, and yeah, we'll see what comes next. I have a few things, as always, on my mind that I want to share, but see, once I get them all together, be back on soon. I thought we'd have our usual entertainment, but no, he's pretty much out. He was up earlier, but a little odd for this hour, but give it time. So, thank you for watching, and to the next one. Peace, love, and joy.